The marketplace encounter. The twin suns hung above the dusty skies of Veltar, a dry and dangerous world. The market here was loud, crowded, and filled with strange alien smells. Spices, oils, metal, and sweat. Beings from across the galaxy walked between broken stalls. Some floated, some crawled, some marched like machines. Among them walked a tired alien woman named Zarel. Her dark cloak was torn. Her boots were old. Behind her, 2 small children followed. They didn't speak. They didn't cry. They simply held her hands and walked quietly. Other traders watched them. Some frowned. Some looked away. "That's one of the fallen clans," someone whispered. "Don't talk to her," another said. "She brings bad luck," Zarel heard. Them. She didn't care. Her children hadn't eaten in 2 days. That mattered more than shame. She reached a stall filled with dried bread and protein cubes. The alien vendor behind it, short, thick, and covered in scales, crossed his arms. Zarel lowered her head slightly and said, "1 piece of bread, please." The vendor growled, "No credits, no food. Get lost." "I have a trade," she said softly. "Metal scraps, good quality." The vendor spit on the ground. "Not from you. Now leave before I call the guards." Zarel stood still for a moment. Her hand tightened around her child's. Then, without a word, she turned to go. Just then, a voice spoke up from the crowd. "Give her the bread. I'll pay." Everyone turned. Human stood nearby. Tall, tan, dusty from travel with a heavy bag on his back. His name was Marcus. He looked calm, but there was steel in his eyes. The vendor snorted. "You wasting credits on her? Stupid human." Marcus stepped forward and tossed 2 small silver coins onto the counter. "Did I ask your opinion?" The vendor hissed but handed over a stale piece of bread. Zarel took it silently and broke it in half, giving it to her children. They ate, slowly, carefully, without saying a word. Marcus looked at her. "You okay?" She nodded. "Thank you." "That was wrong," he said. "The way they treated you." "It's always like this," she said quietly. A guard passed nearby. He spotted Zarel and frowned. "Hey, you again? Didn't I tell?" "You..." Marcus stepped between them. "She's with me," he said firmly. The guard raised an eyebrow. "Since when?" "Since now." The guard grunted. "Fine. But if she causes trouble, it's on you." Then he walked away. Zarel stared at Marcus. "You shouldn't have done that." "Why not?" "Because now they'll watch you too." Marcus shrugged. "Let them." Later that evening, Marcus sat by a small campfire outside the market walls. He had a small metal shelter with a roof, 2 mats, and a storage unit for gear. Zarel and her children sat nearby eating warm soup he had made. The children still didn't speak, but their eyes kept looking at Marcus with quiet curiosity. Zarel sat silently. Her hood was still up, hiding most of her face. Finally, she said, "Why did you help me?" Marcus looked into the fire. "Because no one else did." "That's a dangerous habit." He smiled. "Yeah, my friends say the same." Silence. Then, Zarel spoke again. "I have no money, no home, but my children are well behaved. I can cook, I can clean, I can be a good wife to you, human." Marcus nearly dropped his spoon. He turned slowly. "What?" Zarel looked at him seriously. "You are kind, you are strong, you didn't ask for anything, that is rare. If you take us in, I will not be a burden." Marcus stared at her, stunned. "Zarel, I didn't help you to own you." "I know," she said. "That's why I asked." Marcus looked away, confused and silent. He wasn't sure what to say. No one had ever offered something like that, to him, especially not an alien widow with warrior blood. Before he could reply, a noise. Something moved in the shadows. Marcus stood quickly, grabbing his blaster. Zarel motioned to her children, who stayed completely still. She rose too, but not in fear. From under her cloak, she drew a long, hidden blade. Her movements were quiet, controlled, deadly. Marcus looked at her in surprise. "Where did you learn that?" She didn't answer. She only whispered, "We're being watched." In that moment, Marcus finally understood something. This woman was not just a poor widow. She was something more, something dangerous. And now, he was part of her story. Widow's truth, the stars over Veltar burned cold and sharp. Marcus couldn't sleep. He sat by the fire, blaster in hand, eyes fixed on the dark hills beyond the rocky ledge. Zarel was silent beside him. Her children lay wrapped in blankets, sound asleep. But Marcus knew. They weren't safe yet. Something had moved in the shadows. Earlier. Something fast. Watching. Waiting. Marcus broke the silence. "You didn't even flinch when I grabbed my blaster." Zarel stared into the fire. Her eyes reflected the flames like polished glass. "I've seen worse than shadows." He turned to her. "Where did you learn to fight like that?" Zarel didn't answer right away. She pulled the hood off her head slowly. Her hair was braided close to her scalp, a style common among the warrior tribes. Finally, she spoke. "I wasn't always a beggar. I was once feared." Zarel's voice was steady, but her eyes flickered with pain. She told Marcus how she had once been part of the Valshar, an elite warrior group in the Raveleth Empire. They were known across star systems for their speed, precision, and cold discipline. "I was married to a clan leader," she said. "He was strong, brave. We fought side by side in the early wars. But then a civil war began. My husband stayed loyal to our queen. I did too. But others did not." Zarel paused. The wind whispered through the rocks. "We were betrayed. My husband died defending a supply station. After that, the loyalists lost everything. The new rulers called us criminals." She looked down at her hands. "Widows like me, we were declared useless. No one wanted us. Not even our own people." Marcus said nothing. He let the silence speak for her. Zarel continued. "I ran with my children. I threw away my name. I burned my uniform. I taught my son and daughter to speak only when safe, to walk without sound, to eat without waste." Marcus stared at her, his voice low. "That's why they don't cry. That's why they listen so well." She nodded. He looked away, ashamed of the questions he had in his mind earlier. She wasn't desperate for a husband. She was desperate to protect what little she had left. Then Zarel's voice hardened. "But now, someone's found us." She held up a tiny piece of metal, a tracker chip she had sliced out of the bread wrapper Marcus had bought for her. He froze. "They slipped that in?" Zarel nodded. "They want to find me. Maybe take the children, sell them. Or worse, return me to my clan where they'll make me an example." Marcus's grip on his blaster tightened. "Then we need to leave. Tonight. We can't go far on foot with the children. But there's a place. An old outpost. I used it once, long ago. Human-controlled, maybe still safe. How far?" 3 hours through the canyon," she said. "But we have to move fast. And silent." They packed quietly. Zarel gently woke her children. They didn't cry, didn't even speak. They simply took her hands and followed. Marcus felt something ache in his chest. This wasn't childhood. It was survival. As they walked beneath the stars, Zarel asked, "Why did you help me, really?" Marcus took a breath. "Because I've seen too many people walk past the wrong things. One day I decided I'd stop walking past." Zarel was quiet, then said, "That's a good reason." Halfway through the canyon, they saw movement. 3 figures up on the ridge, armored, carrying rifles. Zarel pulled Marcus behind a rock. Her blade was already in her hand. "They're bounty hunters," she whispered, "and not soldiers. Here for you, or the children." Marcus clenched his jaw. "We can't fight them here." "No," she said. "But we can trick them." She reached into her cloak and pulled out a small device. Old, cracked, but still working. A sonic emitter. She handed it to Marcus. Throw this toward the right cliff wall. They'll think we're there. What about you? I'm going up. Before he could stop her, Zarel was already climbing the rocks in the dark, silent like smoke. Marcus threw the device. It made a high-pitched tone. The bounty hunters turned their weapons and moved toward the sound. Then, Zarel dropped from above. She struck one bounty hunter hard in the neck. Another turned, but she swept his legs and stabbed fast. The third tried to run, but Marcus fired one perfect shot into his shoulder, knocking him cold. It was over in seconds. Zarel stood over the bodies, breathing heavy. Not from fear, from memory. Marcus joined her. You okay? She wiped the blood off her blade. I'm fine, but we need to move. As they disappeared into the dark, Marcus realized this woman was no longer hiding. She was ready to fight back. Not just a mother. The old outpost was hidden behind a ridge of sharp black rocks half buried in sand. Its broken antenna pointed at the sky like a warning finger. Faded signs in human and Ravelith language marked the walls. Outpost 17B. Closed. Zarel stood in front of the sealed door, her children by her side. She placed her hand on a small rusted panel. The light didn't turn on. Marcus frowned. This place is dead. Zarel pulled a sharp tool from her belt and removed the cover. Wires spilled out like metal vines. No, she said. Just sleeping. Marcus watched in silence as she reconnected wires quickly, cutting, tying, fusing. Her hands moved with speed and confidence, not like a mother who begged in markets, but like someone who once commanded soldiers. The panel beeped. The door opened with a loud hiss. Marcus looked at her with raised eyebrows. You're not just some warrior's widow, are you? Zarel didn't smile. No, I'm not. Inside, the air was dry and still. Dust covered the floors. Broken crates and old comm equipment filled the corners. It smelled like rust and time. Zarel quickly moved through the halls as if she had memorized them. Her children followed without speaking. They weren't scared. They trusted her completely. Marcus tried to keep up. You've been here before? Yes. During the last border conflict, he blinked. Wait, with the humans? She nodded. We shared this base with human scouts once. I was a field commander then. Marcus slowed. A commander? Zarel finally looked at him. Does that change the way you see me? Marcus shrugged. No. Just makes your story even harder to believe. In the control room, Zarel opened a locked cabinet. Inside was a backup power cell and a small screen. She wiped it clean, attached a new cable, and turned it on. The screen flickered, then lit up with a map of the region. Marcus stepped beside her. You're tracking the bounty hunters? No, Zarel said. I'm tracking their employers. A small red mark blinked near the mountains to the north. Whoever wants me dead is moving fast, she said. They've sent more. Marcus frowned. Why? You're just one woman. Zarel's voice dropped. I'm not just one woman. I'm the last woman of my line. Marcus looked at her. You mean? Zarel nodded slowly. I was born Zarel Kareth of House Ravel-Kar, first daughter, next in line for the throne. Marcus nearly dropped the scanner. You're a princess? I was, she said, until they branded me a traitor and erased me from history. Marcus walked away, rubbing his head. This keeps getting crazier. Zarel stared at the map. Now you know why they want me gone. If someone finds out I'm alive, the Empire might fracture. But you've been hiding all this time, why now? Zarel's eyes softened as she looked toward her children. Because I finally want them to live, not just survive. I want a home, a name, a place where no one spits at us or calls us cursed. Marcus sat down on a broken crate. That's not easy. I'm not asking for easy, Zarel said. I'm asking for a chance. The power suddenly flickered. Zarel's hand shot to her blade. The lights came back, but Marcus had already drawn his blaster. A loud clank echoed down the hall, then another. Slow. Heavy. Zarel whispered, It's here. They rushed to the children and tucked them behind a heavy crate. Marcus aimed at the door, then something walked in. Tall, armored, half alive, half machine, a cyber hunter. Its face was covered by a metal mask. Its voice came through a broken speaker. Zerel of Ravelkar, you are ordered to surrender your bloodline. Marcus fired the first shot. The blast hit, but barely dented the hunter's armor. Zerel leaped forward, blade flashing. She slid under the machine's strike and stabbed upward. Sparks flew. The hunter grabbed her by the arm and threw her across the room. Marcus yelled, firing again. The hunter turned, but Zerel was already back on her feet. She moved like lightning, slicing wires, ducking, dodging. Then with a hard stab to its spine, the machine collapsed in a burst of sparks. Smoke filled the room. Zerel stood over the body, breathing hard. Marcus stared at her, speechless. Her face was bruised, but her voice was calm. I told you, she said, I'm not just a mother. That night the outpost was silent again. Zerel sat near her sleeping children, sharpening her blade. Marcus sat beside her. Princess. Commander. Widow. Warrior, he said. You've worn so many masks. Zerel looked at him. They were never masks, they were all me. He smiled. You forgot one more. She raised an eyebrow. Which one? Marcus leaned closer. Wife. Zerel stared at him for a long time, and for the first time in many years she smiled. A dangerous offer. The desert morning began with a strange silence. No winds, no insects, just the distant hum of approaching engines. Inside Outpost 17B, Zerel stood still in the old control room. Her eyes were locked on a blinking light on the screen. A signal had been received. Someone knew they were here. Marcus walked in, carrying a heating pack for her children. They're still asleep, he said. Did something happen? Zerel didn't turn her head. We've been found. Marcus froze. More bounty hunters? No, she whispered. Someone worse. An hour later, a new vehicle appeared on the ridge, a sleek hovercar polished black with gold trim. It didn't carry weapons. It didn't need to. Zerel stepped outside, blade at her side, shoulders straight. Marcus followed with his blaster hidden in his jacket. The car stopped. The door hissed open, and Arel Varan stepped out. He wore a long robe stitched with the seal of the royal court. His skin shimmered like silver, and his sharp eyes glowed a faint green. His voice, when he spoke, was like oil, smooth and false. Zerel, he said, smiling. Still alive and still stubborn. Zerel narrowed her eyes. You paid hunters to kill me. He raised a hand. Not kill, just bring you home. You belong to the bloodline. You and your children. I don't belong to anyone. Arel chuckled. Still proud, even after all this time. He turned his gaze toward Marcus. And this is the human? He asked. The one playing house with a fallen queen? Marcus didn't speak. He just stared, hand near his blaster. Errol smiled wider. You're brave. I respect that. But you're also replaceable. Zerel took a step forward. If you came to threaten us, you should leave. But Arel wasn't here for Zerel. He turned fully to Marcus and spoke softly, just loud enough for Zerel to hear. You could walk away from this, human. I'll give you credits. Enough to buy a small ship, a home, a new life. No war, no blood, no responsibility, just step aside. Marcus clenched his jaw. You think I'd trade her for money? Arel leaned closer. I think everyone has a price. You're not from her world. You don't understand her past. She's not just a widow. She's a ticking bomb. Dangerous. You'll die if you stay. Zerel stepped in between them. Enough. But Marcus didn't say anything. And for the first time, Zerel saw a flash of doubt in his eyes. Later that night, the silence inside the outpost felt heavier. Zerel stood alone outside, watching the stars. Marcus joined her, quiet at first. He offered me a way out, Marcus said finally. Zarel nodded. I know. I didn't say yes, but you thought about it. He didn't deny it. Zarel's voice was soft. It's okay to be afraid, but if you don't trust me, you should leave before this war burns you too. Marcus stepped closer. I didn't stay because I wasn't afraid. I stayed because I'm tired of running from hard things. Zarel turned to face him. My people betrayed me. My name became poison. The only thing I trust now is what I see. Marcus gently took her hand. Then see this. I'm still here. Inside, the children played quietly near a small lamp. They didn't speak much, but when Marcus entered, they looked up and smiled. Not the forced smile of survival, but something softer. He sat with them, shared food, and taught Zarel's son how to whistle. She watched from the doorway, and something deep inside her heart began to shift. That night, Errol's ship rose into the sky and disappeared, but he had left behind a message. You've made your choice. I hope you're ready for the consequences. The Empire is coming. The next day, Velka's signal finally answered. Her voice crackled through the old console. I got your call. Zarel, she said. I'm coming, but if the royals are involved, it'll be a war zone. Zarel replied calmly, then come armed. She turned to Marcus. This is no longer about survival. It's about reclaiming what was stolen. Marcus nodded. Then let's get your crown back. The bond is tested. Dark clouds rolled across the skies of Veltar. The sand no longer moved gently. It hissed with sharp winds, as if warning what was coming. Inside the outpost, Zarel stood in silence, strapping on her old armor. It no longer gleamed like before. It was scratched, scarred, dented, but still strong, just like her. Marcus watched from across the room. He didn't say anything, but his eyes followed every buckle, every blade. He had never seen her look more like a warrior, and never more like a stranger. Outside, her children played quietly with metal scraps, building little shapes on the floor. They looked up when she passed. Zarel knelt in front of them. You both remember the plan? Her son nodded. Stay with Marcus. Run if the signal flares red. Her daughter whispered, Don't look back. Zarel kissed their foreheads. You're stronger than I ever was. The alarm suddenly blared, loud and sharp. Something had breached the canyon perimeter. Marcus rushed to the screen. 3 crafts inbound fast. Zarel drew her long blade. Scouts, more will follow. Marcus loaded his blaster. Then we stop them here. She turned to him. Protect the children, that's all I ask. He grabbed her wrist. No, we fight together. The scouts landed like metal wasps, kicking up dust as they touched down. From the smoke came 5 soldiers in red armor, their weapons glowing blue. Trained killers of the Empire. No warnings, no talk. They opened fire immediately. Zarel moved. First, spinning through bullets like wind through trees. Her blade flashed silver. One soldier fell with a broken helmet. Another screamed as her blade slashed across his chest. Marcus covered her from above, sniping 2 more with quick, clean shots. But one soldier got too close, grabbing Marcus and slamming him against a wall. Zarel turned, too far to reach him in time. The soldier raised his blade, and her daughter screamed. That single scream froze time. Marcus raised his arm to block, and the blade cut deep into his side. Blood hit the floor. Zarel roared. She leapt across the battlefield and slammed into the attacker with full force. Her blade pierced his chest, but she didn't stop. She kept striking until his armor shattered. Then she dropped to her knees beside Marcus. His face was pale. His hands trembled. Blood poured from the wound. Zarel's hands shook as she pressed, a sealant patch over the injury. Stay with me, you can't leave, not now. He smiled weakly. Told you. Fighting with you was dangerous. You're not allowed to joke right now, she whispered. The battle was over. The attackers were dead, but Marcus was fading. Zarel dragged him back inside, laying him near the warmth unit. The children hovered nearby, afraid to speak. She looked at them. "Bring me the red case. Now." They moved fast. The case held old field medicine. Some expired, some unstable. But Zarel didn't hesitate. She injected Marcus with 2 shots and wrapped his side tight. Hours passed. He didn't wake. Zarel sat beside him, her armor still bloodied. She didn't cry, but she did something she hadn't done. In years she prayed, not to the old gods of her world, not to the queen she once served. She prayed to the stars. That night Marcus opened his eyes. Barely. "Still alive," he whispered. Zarel almost didn't believe it. She leaned close, whispering, "You scared me." He smiled. "Scaring a warrior. Princess, I'll brag about that." She laughed. "Just once, just softly. You're not just a traveler anymore," she said. He blinked. "Then what am I?" "You're mine," she whispered. The next morning, Velka's ship finally appeared in the distance. Zarel stood on the ridge, her children beside her, Marcus leaning on her shoulder. Velka stepped out in full gear, 2 soldiers. Behind her, she looked at Zarel and said, "You're bleeding." Zarel replied, "Not anymore, I'm healing." Velka nodded. "Good, because the royal fleet just crossed into this system and they brought warships." Zarel looked at the rising sun. "No more running," she said. Velka raised an eyebrow. "You have a plan?" Zarel turned to her children, then to Marcus. "Yes," she said. "I fight not for power, but for a future." As the wind howled across the sand, the last daughter of Ravel Carr stood tall. No longer just a widow, no longer just a fugitive. She was ready to face the galaxy. And this time, she wasn't alone. Zarel's past revealed. The desert winds had stopped. Everything stood still. Inside Outpost 17B, Zarel stared at the image on the screen. A massive ship had entered orbit. Its royal seal pulsed red. House Varnix, the ruling, power that had destroyed her life. She had not seen that symbol since the day her husband died. Velka stood behind her, arms crossed. "You said they'd come. You were right." Marcus sat nearby, still weak but alert. Zarel's children stayed close, sensing something serious was happening. Zarel whispered, "They didn't just come to kill me. They came to erase me forever." Marcus looked at her. "Zarel, there's still more you haven't told us, isn't there?" She turned away from the screen and nodded. "Yes, it's time." She walked over to her children and knelt. "You've always known we were different. I told you our people cast us out. But there's one truth I never said." Her daughter blinked. "What truth?" Zarel breathed in, slow and deep. "I wasn't just a commander. I wasn't just married to a leader." She paused. "I was born to be queen." Velka's head jerked up. "Wait, you?" Zarel stood slowly. "My real name is Zarel Kareth Ra, first blood of the Ravelkar dynasty, older than House Varnix. My family ruled for centuries, until Varnix staged a silent coup. They assassinated my sisters. They poisoned my mother." She touched the hilt of her blade. "I survived only because I was sent away as a child to learn war, not politics. They thought I wasn't a threat." Marcus whispered, "They were wrong." Zarel looked at him. "I stayed silent all these years to protect my children. But I can't hide anymore. If I fall, they'll rise. I need to leave them something more than fear." Velka's eyes narrowed. "If what you're saying is true, then you don't just carry royal blood. You own a claim." Zarel turned back to the screen. "That's why they're here. If the galaxy finds out I'm alive, it weakens their rule." Velka nodded. "And if we send out a signal, they'll bomb us before it reaches the stars." Suddenly the console beeped. An incoming transmission. Velka moved to block the view, but Zarel stopped her. "Let it play." A hologram appeared. High Chancellor Zyron Varnix stood in ceremonial armor. His long black cape shimmered like oil. His voice echoed with cold pride. "Zarel of the ruined house, you should have stayed hidden. Now you force me to cleanse what's left of your name. Surrender peacefully. I will grant your children safety. Resist, and your ashes will be scattered across the sands. You have 1 hour. The image faded. Silence filled the room. Then Marcus spoke, voice steady. Zirel, what do you want to do? She looked at her children. Then she looked at him. I want to fight. Velka nodded. Good. Because I've been waiting for a proper rebellion. She opened a case of weapons. Old tech, illegal, powerful. These are relics from your mother's reign. I've been keeping them just in case you ever came back. Zirel touched a sleek silver gauntlet with a glowing core. She slid it onto her forearm. It locked in place, humming softly. I'm back, she said. And I'm not leaving. In the next hour, the outpost came alive like it hadn't in decades. Turrets were recharged. Shields were patched. Explosives were planted around the cliffs. Zirel's daughter helped lay sensor traps. Her son rerouted power lines like a born. Engineer Marcus checked his rifle, then looked to Zirel. You trained them well. Zirel gave a small smile. I trained them to survive, but they learned to hope on their own. As the sun began to fall, Zirel walked alone to the highest ledge. She raised an old transmission rod and pushed a button. The signal shot upward, coded, encrypted, but unmistakable. It spoke one sentence. The rightful blood of Ravelkar lives. Across the stars somewhere in human space, sensors would detect it. All she had to do was hold out long enough. Down below, the royal ship began its descent. Dozens of drop pods launched, glowing like comets. The final battle was near. Zirel returned to her family, her armor now complete. Marcus took her hand. No matter what happens, he said, you already changed everything. Zirel nodded. Then let's finish what they started. The widow becomes a warrior. Again. The sky above Veltar burned gold and red as the royal fleet began its final descent. Drop pods rained from the clouds like falling stars, shaking the sand and cracking the ground. Zirel stood on a cliff above the outpost. The wind tugged at her royal cloak. Her silver armor gleamed in the rising light. Around her, the old outpost hummed with life. It had once been her grave. Now, it would become her battlefield. Behind her stood Marcus, pale but standing. Her children, brave and focused. Velka, old rival turned ally, finished loading the last turret. Zirel took a deep breath and whispered, "This is where I stop running." Below them, dozens of red-armored soldiers stormed toward the outpost. Their leader, a brute named Commander Tavin, marched at the front, holding a plasma halberd. His orders were simple: kill the human, burn the traitor, bring the children, alive. The first wave. The attack began like thunder. Energy blasts lit the sky. The outpost's turrets opened fire, slicing through the first line of soldiers. Explosions shook the cliffs. Smoke rose. Zirel moved like lightning, blades in, both hands slicing through soldiers that made it past the defenses. She no longer held back. She was not just defending her children. She was reclaiming her name. Marcus fought by her side, blaster in one hand, shielding her back with the other. Blood stained his coat, but he never slowed down. Above them, Velka sniped targets from the tower with surgical precision, and the children, Zirel's children, ran the systems. Recharging weapons, repairing shields, sending alerts. They were not afraid. They were her legacy. A message. Across the stars inside the command center, a red light blinked. Marcus stumbled in, checking the console. His eyes widened. It worked, he called out. The message reached them. Zirel rushed to his side. The screen displayed the seal of the United Human Colonies. Message received. Confirmation of royal bloodline signal. Assistance inbound. Time to arrival 53 minutes. Zirel smiled, but her smile vanished as the sensors lit up red. A second wave of ships had entered the sky. They didn't have 53 minutes. The wall falls. A massive explosion tore through the eastern wall. Zirel was thrown to the ground. Marcus shielded the children with his body. Velka screamed from above. They breached the outer gate. Commander Taven himself entered with a dozen elite soldiers. His voice echoed through a loudspeaker. Surrender. Now, Zirel. Your bloodline ends today. Zirel stood tall even as dust and ash clung to her armor. Then come and end it yourself. The dual Zirel met Taven in the courtyard. He stood over 7 feet tall, body enhanced by tech and poison. His halberd pulsed with death. Zirel charged with both blades. Their clash shook the stones. Sparks flew. Steel sang. Taven slammed her into the wall. Blood ran from her mouth. But she didn't fall. She struck back, fast, low, brutal. Each strike was a memory. Her husband's death. Her children crying in hunger. Her name being erased from records. Her being called worthless, she screamed, and stabbed him through the ribs. Taven dropped to his knees. He looked up at her in fear. You're just a widow, he gasped. No, she whispered. I am Ravel Kar. And she ended him. The price of victory, more soldiers poured into the outpost. Marcus was hit. Velka was down. The shields failed. The outpost shook. Zirel knew what had to be done. She dragged herself to the core chamber. Her children followed. Inside was the old fusion core, unstable, ancient, but powerful. Marcus limped in after her. Zirel, what are you doing? They want me, she said. They want the royal bloodline gone. She looked at her children. I won't let them take it. She activated the overload. The core began to pulse. Marcus grabbed her arm. There has to be another way. There's not enough time. He held her close. Then I stay with you. Zirel looked at him, really looked, and made the hardest choice of her life. She kissed him. Once, fierce, final. Then she pushed him back. Take them, she said. Lev, tell them who I was. Zirel, but she had already locked the door. The final stand outside, the last of the royal army entered the main hall. Zirel stood alone in the core chamber, glowing like a goddess of fire and steel. The explosion tore through the desert like a sun had fallen. Everything burned. Silence hours later. The human fleet arrived. They found Marcus and the children alive in a buried escape pod. Velka, wounded but breathing. The outpost was gone. The royal army? Annihilated. And Zirel? Nowhere to be found. Legacy months passed. The name Zirel Kareth Ra spread across star systems. Some called her a ghost. Others a queen reborn. The human colonies honored her with a title never given to an alien before. Guardian of Unity. Her children were raised with honor. They wore her sigil proudly, and they swore to build a future she would have been proud of. Marcus never remarried. He built a home with her memory in every room, and every year on the day the skies turned red, he and the children climbed a high hill, lit a flame, and told her story again. But one day, years later, on a quiet moon, a woman arrived at a healing. Temple-cloaked, scarred, silent. She carried 2 broken blades and wore an old silver gauntlet. The priest looked at her with wide eyes. Who are you? The woman only smiled and said, just a mother looking for her children. She had returned, not to fight, not to rule, but to live.